Hey there, and welcome to the Reclamation Room. I'm Ashana, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a space for women reclaiming themselves after narcissistic abuse. If you've ever felt like you were too much, not enough, or both at the same time, you're in the right place. I created this podcast because I know what it's like to lose yourself in overgiving, overperforming, and still wondering why it never felt like love. I've walked through trauma, toxic relationships, and the long road of self-reclamation, and I'm here to walk with you. In this podcast, we'll explore what it means to come home to yourself after the confusion and chaos of narcissistic abuse. Some episodes will be solo, others will include guest interviews. All of them will be honest, grounded, and deeply compassionate. So, whether you're just realizing what you've lived through, or you've been on this path and you're ready for the next layer of your healing, you are welcome here. This is not about perfection. This is about reclamation. Okay, so we chatted on Matchmaker, and you have breathwork and yoga, somatic practices, grounding, which I love.
Yes.
I cannot remember the huge truth bomb that you dropped on me regarding narcissistic relationships. And I was like, yes, that. And I can't remember now.
Okay. I don't know if this is what I shared with you, but I sometimes say that empaths and narcissists come from the same wound. Like it's the same core wound of that fear of abandonment. But one, it goes in and is like the pleaser and kind of, I'm going to abandon myself to do for you. And the narcissist is more like, I'm going to take from you because that's what I need, kind of create an addiction for you to stay with me, for me to not feel abandoned. And then once I know I have you, I discard you and I leave.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Oh,
So actually, I'm just going to go ahead and start with some questions because that was great.
Okay.
So I'll just clip and edit.
Okay. Cool.
So I'm wondering from your point of view, because this theory is fascinating. I'm wondering if you have a theory also on what is it that causes the narcissist to resort to I'm going to take from you because that's what works for me. Why is that?
Yeah, and I've had people even ask for me similarly as to like, let's say two children come from the same parent. And, you know, sometimes it's that childhood trauma, attachment trauma, or instances in childhood that both children may have experienced. And one becomes more of the empathic type and one becomes more of the narcissistic type. And
Yep.
so it's like, well, they had the same parents or kind of the same upbringing, but it's really about the protective mechanisms that come into place on the subconscious level. So both of them are doing this from a place of protection. Both also tend to fear because they never had real love and real intimacy. So it's this kind of artificial form of love that they're creating. And so the one who is more narcissistic, so to speak, when the love may be actually there, when they feel that perhaps from the more empathic person, that's kind of terrifying to them. So they may like avoid and they may discard or they may break up. But prior to that, though, it feels really good. So prior to that, they're like, well, I want more and I want control. I want to feel empowered. And so a lot of the like grooming maybe, and again, sometimes it's so unconscious. Like I'm not saying this that it's necessarily from a place of malicious intent. Sometimes it is, but we're not in their head to really know. But I think for them, it's these survival instincts because they think, well, I need you in order to be okay and feel good and feel okay within myself. They're so removed from that fragile like inner wound or that fragile inner child that they'll avoid the pain at all costs. They'll avoid going into their own pain, their own sense of unworthiness that they feed off of the like narcissistic supply from the other person to feel good. And like I said, it can become kind of that addictive, like dopamine hits of I'm going to create maybe some disruption so that then I can get that euphoric high again.
This is so cool. What I'm hearing is that perhaps the person with the more narcissistic tendencies, maybe they want to feel wanted, maybe they want to feel important, maybe they want to feel not abandoned, which is very similar, like you said, to what the empathic more person is feeling too.
Yes, which most people don't realize. And that's where I can come from, having some compassion for those. Like I don't like to label and say someone is like a narcissist or has narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, those things exist, but I view it from this lens of compassion. Now, sometimes it does become abusive and so traumatic that when there's that unhealthy dynamic, like you need to break that off and leave, because it is damaging, and they tend to not take that ownership and take that accountability. And I would say the one who is more narcissistic is less likely to have like guilt and remorse versus someone who may have similar tendencies, but they're not from that place of like as narcissistic or from narcissism.
Yeah.
So now, as I went on that tangent, I already forgot. Oh, the same wounds. Yes. So most people don't realize that it's like literally the same wound, or this like inner wounded child of both really are seeking the same things, but going about it in different ways. And so, yes, just to really affirm and emphasize where it's coming from, the fear of abandonment or the fear of rejection. And so to compensate for that, because they maybe didn't receive that when they were younger, they were abandoned, they were rejected, or they were abused. So they're compensating of like, let me seek it from outside of me through this person. And usually those who are more empathic and empathetic are the easier targets. They're just more vulnerable. And so they're like magnets. The energy of it, of the narcissistic person can be so charismatic and so alluring and so mysterious. And the empathic person is like, I feel you, I see you, I want to help you. You know, sometimes they have that like
I recognize this in me and you.
Yes.
You're mirroring back to me and I see it in you. Let me mirror to you and it's just going to be great.
And then it's completely like blows up.
Yes.
They're just triggering each other.
Yeah.
But initially it's very magnetic, and it can feel that chemistry can be so euphoric and so strong that it can be really hard to untangle and get out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like to an empath or an empathic person, of course, we see some part of that in them, even if we don't conceptualize and say, okay, this is coming from the same place. I recognize what you might be feeling right now. I've been there. That
Yes.
sucks. Let me be there for you. Let me
Yes.
help you. Yeah.
Yes. On both parts. And I think that ownership and accountability is so important on both sides, because it can easily go into like blame and they're awful and they did this to me, and
Yep.
that victim mentality. But you used a really powerful word, I recognize you, because most people, regardless of if they have that abandonment wound, long for and desire recognition. And so we want to be recognized in our wholeness and in kind of like our highest, most evolved self. But when we're not there yet, then it's like we're being recognized where we are. We're going to recognize those that are kind of on the same kind of wavelength and same place. And so when we can look at it as if the relationship doesn't work out or doesn't become healthier, because both people need to say, like, I'm willing to do the work to make this healthier. But if not, that's the learning. Can you take that mirroring, like you said, and use that as a reflection of self, of how did I contribute to this? And what do I need to do for me so that I don't keep attracting this type of person and getting involved in these cycles?
Yeah. What can I recognize in myself that can help me keep evolving and growing and not having these undesirable situations?
Yes.
Okay, so a question. And this is something that I'm going to start asking everybody on the show, because I feel like narcissism, hot button topic. Okay. And we see online, everyone's like, you're just throwing that word around at this point. Everyone's a narc. And I agree. I mean, I do. It is
So
a
do
real
I.
thing. Yeah.
We all have it in us. It's a spectrum, and we need it. Like, there's a healthy level of narcissism, so freaking own it.
Yeah, that was my question. How do you feel about when I say we're all on a spectrum to some degree?
Yeah.
I've had more narcissistic tendencies before, and then I've noticed those in myself and then healed them. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I don't need to do that. Like that was how I coped before.
And beautiful. It's a form of coping. It is from our ego. It is a protection of like a wounded part, or that inner child that's fearful of maybe being seen, because they might have shame, right? Or a sense of like something is bad about me or unworthy about me, and insecurity. So the ego comes in and seeks, right? When we think of narcissism, we're like that seeking, that arrogance, seeking that attention, seeking it though from a place that I would say is artificial, but is kind of necessary to kind of function in whatever environment or situation of whatever what's going on. Because showing oneself and being vulnerable maybe is too scary, that instead kind of that narcissism will come out. And that narcissism is like me, right? Like, listen to me, do for me, or is kind of like that heightened inflation of arrogance or manipulation, even to kind of get and control, right? To have something be your way. And I think we all have a tendency of falling into those, and awareness is a really powerful, strong way to catch yourself when it's there, to repair if it's happened, to be willing to reflect back on yourself and notice like, yeah, that was kind of narcissistic of me.
Yep.
Or whatever other word, if that word sometimes feels really uncomfortable.
That didn't feel good. I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
also need it. If if we're completely on the one side of like the empath and completely giving oneself away, right? It's like, well, that just leads you into like being taken advantage of, or not engaging in things of like self-care, because everything else comes before you.
Yeah, that's actually one of the hardest parts with a lot of my clients. It's almost having to convince someone that it actually is okay to take that time for yourself and focus on yourself.
Yes.
Sad, but common.
Very common. And I would say that's often from conditioning, like the nervous system kind of being conditioned for receiving care is uncomfortable, and
Yeah.
can be so automatic then to, if someone offers, and I hear this a lot from similar people, of if someone offers to help, then maybe the more empathic person or the people pleaser is like, well, then I owe them something, and it becomes transactional, right? If your partner is like, hey, I'm going to do all of this for you, and then they're like, well, I better clean the house, or I better do their laundry, right? So then it's like it completely negates the care that was being given. There's a
Ugh.
resistance to receiving.
You just touched on such a big thing. Like what you just said to me is like this big crystal ball that I could just hold, and the weight of it is like, ugh, that's such a big thing.
Yes, yes.
And learning that everything is transactional. And there's a nuance too, because it's not always when we're questioning, like, is this a narcissistic relationship? Are there tendencies here? Like, is this dangerous? It's not always overt that it's me. Because sometimes it's even when you're upset, maybe they're not as capable of being with you and understanding why you're upset because they're so focused on, are you going to think that I'm bad?
Yep.
And that is making it me, but it's again, it's a fear response. And
Yes.
it's just two people, and it's not open.
Yeah. And then it doesn't come across that way, right? It doesn't come across as being self-centered or self-focused, but it is in
But
that,
it is.
like you said, in that covert way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This is so good for people to hear. The way that you're wording things it's not airy fairy.
Well, good.
People
Thank
are going to hear this and they're going to be like, that makes so much sense.
you. Yes. We wanted to land.
Yeah. Okay. So let's segue a little bit into, I guess your role as what would you call yourself?
Yeah. And beautiful. Like, thank you for kind of opening the question, what would you call yourself? Because ultimately I like to say that I'm human like anybody else that I work with, and that I work very intuitively. But technically my license is a clinical social worker. So I'm technically a mental health therapist, and I am trained and in 500-hour training of yoga psychology. So as a registered yoga teacher, but even that, like, I did, got my master's, I took my licensing exam, and I keep up with my continuing education credits. But my work is so far from what I learned in those like years of school, and in my years of training as a yoga instructor, that I have tailored my work very uniquely with each person that I work with, from a spiritual, therapeutic, somatic, or body based level. And so when I work with someone, it's really forming a relationship. And I even say sometimes, like, I become your mirror. We are a relationship just like you would be in a relationship with a family member, a friend, a partnership. It's not romantic, but can you see in me? And I have clients say, just about my energy or the way that I show up, or qualities that whether they admire them or whether they sense a sense of safety and comfort. And I'm like, well, if you sense that here, that means it's absolutely in you. And the same can be like, maybe I say something and they're bothered by it. And I'm like, please tell me, let's have these conversations, because you're learning through this relationship. So then you can also take it out in the world. So it's not like, people will come to me and they're like, hey, fix this thing. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to give you, there's no answer. There's no pill. Like there's no cure. This is evolving into your humanness and your authenticity and unlocking your own natural skills and gifts and abilities that best serve you to live a fulfilling life. Because when you're willing to go into the depths of yourself and kind of discover yourself through your pain and also through your joy, the mental health symptoms kind of dissolve.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
So we do some talk, but it can be a yoga practice. Sometimes I'll even pull like an oracle card that helps me kind of intuitively, if there's like a word or a message or a meaning that can kind of guide the session. And so we're working with the body and identifying where something might be coming up for them in the moment. So as much as people might think, oh, I have had this trauma history, we need to talk about my trauma. I'm like, yeah, that might come out, but we don't have to review it. We don't have to go back there. If there's things that you want to share that come up, absolutely share them. Like, tell me about your day-to-day. Tell me what stresses you out. Tell me what you've been struggling with for years. But now, where is that in your body? Because our body, whether it's pain or an emotion, it's a signal. And so if there's anxiety there, how do you experience your anxiety? Where do you first notice it? So the sensation tends to be the first signal before our thought and before our feeling and before the action. But many, because of whether it's self-abandonment or it was uncomfortable to be your authentic self when you were younger, you disconnect from your body. And so then you don't learn to tune into those signals early on. And if you stay with that signal, which usually is an energy, our emotions are energy in motion, which can't be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. So if it's something that's like unsettling in your belly, it's like, well, can you stay there? Can we bring some attention there? Most people are like, no, it's so uncomfortable. I feel nauseous or I can't breathe. And it's like, well, no, the feeling isn't going to kill you. And if you can stay with it, whether we start to move, whether we sing and voice something, whether we hum, whether we tap, our emotions last on average for 90 seconds. But most people put so much judgment on top of that and analysis on top of that.
Resistance.
And resist it. Then it hides and it stays in your body. Or it just grows and it consumes you and you fixate and you ruminate or you create a story around it.
Yep.
So yeah, usually meet one-on-one with people, but I also do groups, classes, workshops. Yeah, it's a little bit about what I do. Yeah, thank you.
Speechless for a moment because I'm like,
take it in.
Yeah, so good. I did have a question. Hang on, I lost it. Oh, I remember as you were speaking.
Yes.
Sacred space together.
Yes.
Like we're all mirrors. If we're open to it. Otherwise, we're a bunch of closed doors, which is also extremely uncomfortable. But I have this theory, and I'm wondering how you would take this, that the kind of growth and spiritual and personal development that I feel we're meant to have here, I think that can only happen through communicating with other humans and other beings. I don't think it can be a soul journey or solo journey. It's definitely a soul journey, but not.
Yeah, soul journey, but not a solo journey. I love that. I love that line. And man, it amazes me that you and I are meeting now and the questions that you're asking and you're like, this is what I believe. And I'm like, I believe that's what I believe it too. It would probably be really awkward if we had
Actually, no.
Right?
I'm going to stop you right there.
Wrong. No, and there's space, of course, for differences of opinion. But I love when there's the resonance, because I think sometimes people will, especially relationships, especially more narcissistic and like empath relationships, they're like, I need to do all this work and I need to be by myself because I can't handle this, or I'm going to hurt someone else, or what have you. And like, no, So I very much believe in, or what I call relational healing. And so that's even why I now show up and tell people, like, I am your mirror. I don't like the idea of like my power of authority as expert is above you. Like we are here. You're going to teach me things and I'm going to teach you things. But then as well as like more intimate romantic relationships, that's really where like the potency is, because that's what triggers you the most. And those triggers are catalysts for learning and growth. And yeah, if you don't have that in your life, then when you're like by yourself meditating or reading or even going like on your own to a retreat, and if you're not interacting with the people there, you're missing out on what is needed to give you the information on what activates your nervous system so that you can even know what it is to give attention to and to address.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I have another theory too, and this kind of goes a little into like, that's a conspiracy theory. So we'll
I'm all
see.
for it. Yeah.
So I'm actually reading this book for a college class right now. It's called The Filter Bubble.
Okay. Oh, cool. I haven't heard of it.
It's really good. Oh, my backpack's over there. I can't remember who wrote it, but we're looking at algorithms and we're looking at how your feed and your social media are now crafted and curated to do more of what you've been saying you want, which is basically confirmation bias in action.
Yes.
And so I feel like this is fostering that disconnect more and more and more, because if you're just in that bubble of what you feel, what you think, what you agree with, you're also not developing the skills that you need to be able to handle anything outside of that.
Yes.
We're being crippled emotionally.
Yes. We're just getting the reinforcement of like, well, this has that. Yep. That confirmation bias.
Yeah.
If your feed is just not opening you up to other perspectives, and we could say that right about here with like the narcissist and the empath, of if you are more of the empathic person and you're mad because you were in a relationship and the narcissist like hurt you and upset you, and of course like created trauma, that can happen. But if you're kind of fixated on that and your feed is filled with that, then you're going to keep putting all of that on the other person and not taking any ownership in how you contributed to the relationship and then what you may need to do within yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard because we're consumed by social media and what shows up in our feed, or even things like using like AI and like ChatGPT sometimes, like that too, it can be very much based on what it reads.
What you told it.
Yeah, exactly. What you put in there, put in there.
Gosh, I hadn't even thought of that to this degree. Like you're creating your whole own person that's like ready to, yes, you're right. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. You're correct. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Breeding narcissism almost.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's important for people to consider putting other things in their search bar or in their feed so that they're not constantly seeing and getting that confirmation bias.
Yeah. This is an important topic because gosh, I'm all about like personal theories on this podcast. I'm not trying to make it about me, but your insight is great on this, because I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Let's talk more. But I have this thing where I'm like, you know what? Curiosity is like the foundation for all of it. Like if we can't get curious with it, then we're going to be afraid of it. We're going to avoid it. And I think even like you said, putting things into your search bar and like broadening what you're looking at, if we're not curious, we have no motivation to do that.
Yes. And curiosity, I love that too, because it's its own intervention or therapeutic tool, which sometimes when I speak on podcasts and I've had the host kind of ask me like, so what's something that someone can do to support themselves if they're feeling stressed out and anxious? And I give this most simplest answer. I'm like, breathe. It's like, there you go. Pay me $100 and I'm going to tell you to breathe. Because so much of even the yoga work that I do with people, and I had someone say this to me this past week, been working with them for 2 years, and every time that person happened to have another like more traditional talk-based therapist. So our work was literally silently doing yoga. And what they came through these 2 years was like just the practice of being present. And that more of that being present, they were able to start to listen more and be with their emotions and enhance their capacity And then that started to evolve to becoming more confident and courageous in their authentic self. And a part of the practice with being present is awareness and curiosity. And so that curiousness towards, well, what is your body doing or experiencing is a better word than doing, while you're in this pose. And that's what makes it different than a typical yoga class, because I'm prompting that. While we're holding this shape, I even say, as opposed to pose, shape of your body, be curious about what it is you're experiencing or sensing and the message that you might be receiving. And I also read a book that named curiosity as kind of an antidote for fear. If we can show up in a place of curiosity over fear, or with curiosity, it's likely that you'll be less in a fear state.
And more likely to find a solution or a closure or
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, fear keeps us just kind of stuck in that loop. Yeah, curiosity really opens you up and reduces conflict, especially if you're doing that with another person.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's funny too, because the bulk of this conversation I feel could be an essay on fear
Yeah,
and just what it can do to a human.
for sure. Yes. Right. Because when we started, we had said like it's the abandonment wound per se, right? It's a fear though of being abandoned. Ultimately, in a lot of those dynamics, when the relationship ends, or if it does, right, you could go into, all right, I'm being abandoned, but you're not dying. It's not killing you. And that's usually what the fear is about. When you're a kid, if you're left on your own and you're a baby, yeah, you're going to die. We're not kids anymore. And so it's helping and showing and retraining your system to be with yourself. And they're like, I got you. Like, I'm here with me, even though they might not. They might not be.
You know, I don't remember who I was talking to. I was talking to someone and they were like, isn't it difficult what you do all day? Like in my day job, I'm a couples recovery coach for porn and sex addiction.
Wow.
And I was like, parts of it, yeah. I mean, these people are going through devastating things. You know, there's so much betrayal trauma going on and just like it's hard. There's stages, there's phases, there's cycles, but honestly, sometimes it feels like literally all I'm doing is just like, hey, it's okay. I'm here. You're okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not even assurance. It's a presence. If like
Yeah.
you are offering a presence and a reminder for them that they're okay, or that person, like you telling them they're okay. And I think that's often what we want to hear from something outside of self, because we might not be in a place where, because of that fear, to be able to say it to ourselves. And so to have someone else that likely they trust, it's that trust, it's that safety, and it's the reminder that they're okay.
Yeah. And then they get to the point where they're like, oh, wait, I'm okay. Oh my gosh. So I feel like you probably have moments like that a lot with your clients where they reach that point and they're like, you know what? I think I'm okay.
Yeah, whether it's through their body, but often they're coming with such shame and such like insecurity or harsh criticism about themselves, and saying to themselves, maybe even unconsciously, and they don't realize that they're like evil or that they're bad. Right? Yeah. Right. Like if you take it, and I have someone come in and tell me that they watch their porn, right? And they're addicted to porn. And they want, in a way, part of them or their ego might want me to be like, well, that's a problem. And we got to figure out how to get rid of that. And they're like, here, like, this is bad. And because I don't do that for them, like, certainly it can be invasive and lead to like betrayal in a relationship, or if it's getting in the way of their functioning and their quality of life, we want to work around that. But you got to start with where they are and start with that acceptance of like, you're addicted to this for a reason. And it is serving a purpose. And if we take it away before you're ready, that's going to be worse, because then you don't have a coping mechanism for whatever it's protecting you from. And when I show them that and have that perspective shift, and then we get curious about it, but just by saying like, you got to keep doing it for now until we kind of identify more of the root of it. And until then, other kind of healthier choices may be able to come along. But just by letting, like, not shaming them, that's their message of like, oh, I'm okay.
Yes.
I'm okay.
There is hope. I can do something about this. I shouldn't just throw in the towel. And
yeah.
so I feel like what you just described with, you've been addicted to this thing and we just take it away and you don't have any other coping mechanisms, you haven't learned. I feel like that is where so many people get into when they leave a narcissistic relationship.
Oh, oh, right. Oh,
Like, what? Well, why do you keep going back? Well, let me just tell you why. Okay. I haven't learned other coping mechanisms for this addiction.
yes. Oh my goodness. I'm like, now I'm having like the relationship is its own coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like the narcissism or the empath, like to either end of the extreme was a coping mechanism. That was, we did what we had to do in order to get what we needed because we need that. We
Yes.
need validation and attention and acceptance and to be a part of the pack. Well, now we're not kids. Now we have to get
Yeah.
it who knows where. Of
Right.
course, it's like, let's be in a relationship. That's what we do.
That's repeating the same type of pattern. Yeah. Or even magnifying, right? You may not have had it to that level in childhood, but
Yeah.
it can like worsen kind of or just become more intense over time. And so yeah, when it ends, it's like catastrophic to probably the nervous system for whatever it is that it was protecting and coping, because now you're kind of being like forced to be with that sense of abandonment, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not good enough, or something's wrong with me, like whatever beliefs came around that. And if that's so excruciatingly painful, right, you're either going to run back to the relationship or pick up some other type of like self-destructive, right, like whether it's substance abuse or gambling, like another form of an addictive behavior. So yeah, that makes so much sense.
It really does. And I'm going back over my past history and I'm like, dang, my behavior that escalated, my coping mechanisms, and I just was circling the drain until I finally had to realize what can I do here that's healthy? Like this is not, I'm not functioning well.
Yes.
I don't want to keep doing this.
Yeah. Right. When you're at the point where you can say, like, this is not serving me in a healthy way, because it is serving something it believes, probably from that place of survival. But again, you were surviving. I think it's this the little you or the system does not take in, like, you are surviving. You have already survived. Your basic needs are met. But to stay in that chronic state of survival is so exhausting to the body and to the person, that to be able to say like that, it is that kind of like hit rock bottom or surrender moment of, I can't live this way anymore. And what is going on, so that I can support myself and really recognize that I am okay, that I am safe, while I still may need other resources. And I believe they're really inside of you, but maybe support to help you access them, so that like that wound can be attended to and the story or the chapter can be closed, so that you don't go and repeat it, or you don't go back to that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That brings me two questions. So I want to try to remember the one. Okay. Helping people access it. No, hang on. I want to do that question second.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
So, for a person who may be in that space of they have left the relationship, they don't have other coping mechanisms at the moment, and they stumble upon this podcast episode and they're like, oh shit, that's me. What, in, knowing who you are and what you do and how you do things, what might you say to that person right now?
I mean, I think immediately what comes is, you're not alone. I mean, right, there's a podcast about this. And so you're not the only one that is experiencing what you're experiencing. So sometimes that helps while they're still kind of in that helpless state of like, but I want to fix it. Like, I want this to go away. So that curiosity of, why do you want it to go away? What is so like intolerable about the experience? Right. And often it's like, well, I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. Or if it's so severe, right, it could be like that panic where they believe that it has the feeling or the story, like if it's intrusive thoughts, have the power over them. And so working with the person to take their power back, meaning that the feeling or the story is not in charge and you are, while the feeling and the story wants to remain in charge. So it's going to try to fight you. And so if you're coming in and you're like, I hate this feeling, I want it gone, there's something wrong with me, fix me. It's like, no, I need to stay here. I serve a purpose. And it does. It believes that it's keeping you alive and that it's keeping you in artificial like love and connection. So it wants and it seeks that. So if that's what it's working for, right? The attention, to be loved, to have connection, then showing it that you already have that with yourself, or, you know, if they're working with me or here with this podcast, it's like, you have it right here. We might not be that those two romantic people for you, but right here, we're connecting with you. We see you, we get you, we understand. I'm pretty much more empathic. I tend to attract and have history of my own, like whether it's narcissistic people or avoidant behaviors, which is very similar. And so that there's such a strong importance to connection that is already there, and we can get it right now just through this awareness and acknowledgement of the pattern. So they're like, that's me. You're connected. If you can identify it, you are connected to yourself. If you're oblivious to it, that's where it's like, oh, okay, you're going to keep staying in it because you don't even realize what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You can't get out of autopilot until you realize that you're in autopilot.
Yes.
And the way that that happens is by you noticing something that you don't like about it usually.
Yep.
Something that's really uncomfortable. And these feelings, they have that dual purpose of like, they have been trying to keep you safe. So there's that. That's super awesome, man. Your body's so cool.
Yes.
You've been in some shit, but that's cool.
Yes.
And also, they're showing you what you do need and what you can work on and what you can help yourself with.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
and
so precious.
it's so precious. And when you see those, like those parts of you that are so brilliant that they came up with this, and right, often we're like, well, I hate this pattern, but it exists. It exists. And so you can see how brilliant it is in its attempt to try to create that love, connection, survival, protection, and safety. I mean, ultimately, initially those dynamics, that like push-pull dynamics in relationship or like chaser runner, they're familiar. And that's why it feels safe, because you're used to them. And so something about it, especially initially, and I'll say this to people, is exciting and is thrilling. And then when we come in and think like, well, then it turns to like unhealthy chaos. But something about most of these people, and even at times myself, I've come to the point where I'm like, I love the thrill. Like, I don't want to keep continuing that pattern, but if it means that I have to let that thrill go, like, I don't want to be in a boring relationship. And so when you can own that there's an excitement about it, but channel that into healthier things, you know, whether that's what you're doing in your relationship or what you're doing in your day-to-day life and in your activities and in your interests, that still spark that in you so that you're choosing it and you're leading from a place of, like I say, healthy, safe chaos, as opposed to the revolving kind of cycle in those kinds of narcissistic empathic relationships.
The more helpless, like, I feel like this is wildly out of control, and yet here I am in it again.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so moving a little more into the body, I'm wondering if you could give, let's say, 3 red flags that you might notice in your body, which you might not yet, but maybe after hearing this, maybe you'll notice it next time.
Okay. So typically, what can happen, and there's usually like things, maybe we could say in a relationship, like things feel good, right? Maybe there's consistency, maybe you have like the connection, and then something subtle shifts, and empaths will notice it. They can read emotions. They're more hyper aware. And so maybe a text came through, right? And you read it in some way and you're like, oh, they're mad at me, or like, oh no, they're not responding. Maybe it didn't come through. And so there is something that likely happens in the body. So for some, it might be like a sinking feeling in your stomach, right? It's like all of a sudden something like drops in your stomach. It can be a sense of tension in the muscles. It could be a change in breathing. So it's going to be different for different people, but those are sort of like the common signals in the body. A lot of people say like chest gets tight, throat might close, stomach drops. And usually they describe it as anxiety, worry, and fear and panic. So taking that sign, because then that's going to then go into the, well, what do I do to like bring them back? How do I need to behave or act or show up?
Yep.
that's not true to you because you're now in that activated state where you're very uncomfortable because of something that you're experiencing in your body.
Yeah. You're like running to put out a fire.
Yes.
And the fire is in here.
Let's
look in here.
Yeah. Like, well, if they just validate me or come back or connect, they choose me, whatever, then my body will soften. But that's the loop. And so, yeah, it's like the fire is in here. And so then attending to that fire, and you might want to stay with that, but I'm going to throw this out here while I'm thinking about it. That's like an in the moment signal. Another really powerful signal is fatigue and exhaustion, but that's usually like over time. And so if you're like, I'm tired all the time, and like, why am I so tired? That, and like having creative blocks. So if you tend to be more creative and you're no longer engaging in your creativity because you're tired, that's something too. Okay, those are my 3.
That one for me is like, I know that like this isn't a creative output, but reading books for me was like everything for a long time. And there were like 10 years where I just stopped reading and had anyone who knew me would be like, what?
Yes.
He's not reading? And I was like, there's something wrong with me. Oh my gosh. That was a part of my personality almost.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, I had no motivation to even do the one thing that brought me that joy and that visiting other places and imagining and
yes. And that's right. That's the idea. The book takes you into your imagination, and your imagination is your creativity. Like, even if it's someone else that you're reading, you're resonating with it, likely like somatically with your body and emotionally. It's bringing that out in you that then might guide you to other things that you're not even connecting, that like, oh, it's because I read that awesome story or that book that I'm now like choosing to do this, right, for yourself. And so if you stop doing the things that you love and you're not even aware of it, that's an indicator. So like checking in with yourself of what's something that's so true to me that you love to do that you're not really doing anymore.
That's a good one. That's gonna hit home.
Stick. Yes.
Okay, so a little bit of a personal share. So I'm several years out from what I call like the worst of the narcissistic abuse of my life. Occasionally, years later, I will still get a text message because sometimes these are people that you do still have to engage with for one reason or another.
Yes.
And most recently, I did read a text and I noticed, I was like, wow, my body is really activated by this text message right now. Like, it's fascinating to be able to notice it and be like, huh, well, that makes no sense right now logically. I mean, I feel fine. And yet my body is instantly back in that place because my brain doesn't know that this is now and that was then.
Yep.
So it feels the same. And I'm not even kidding you. It took about a full 3 hours for me to be completely settled back to baseline, which is a lot longer than it normally takes.
Interesting.
But I'm wondering if like I guess your opinion on this, if that might mean like a lot of times people will say, gosh, I can't believe I'm still bothered by this. Like, oh, why is this still coming up for me? And I feel like we do make progress and we're doing great and like, wow. And then there may be that thing that pops up and you're like right back there again. Of course, don't beat yourself up. But I'm wondering sometimes if this means that like the excavation is going a level deeper.
Yeah, what immediately came up to me as I kind of was having an idea of what you might ask is there's still something there to attend to within yourself on a deeper place of like, right, the deeper we go into the depths of self, and sometimes it's the dark, sometimes it's the darkness, like the deeper you go, the more that you'll expand and open if you're willing to like come up more even higher, like into the light.
Yeah.
And so, yes, like if you can view that as like, there's a readiness in me. So usually I say when people become more aware and they can notice things like that, it does mean that there's a readiness to go into that. Whereas like if this came about maybe a year ago, maybe you wouldn't have had any, right? Like you may have dissociation can be like a protective mechanism, not completely, but like the detachment from it.
Yeah.
Where you were attuned to your body and you were like, it took me 3 hours. Oh, but maybe there's some, like I say, like gold in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I was really surprised by that.
Do you remember, if you're willing to go there now, do you remember where you felt this in your body?
I believe it was mostly my stomach.
Stomach.
But I will say that there was a little bit of chest and throat because I instantly was like, this feels like I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble.
Okay, that's so helpful, right?
Yeah.
So that's the message, right? So it's like if you can identify where it is, and then sometimes it's like, okay, how are you experiencing it, right? Like, does it move? Is it big? Is it small? Is it fast? Is it slow? Does it have a color, a shape, a size? And then, yeah, what is it saying? And it's like, it feels like I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, very heavy in my stomach. But then like you're swallowing tears. I do remember as a kid a lot like crying at the dinner table, but we weren't allowed to cry. So I would have to keep eating.
Hold that back. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if like I just went deeper with it that time. I'm like 3 hours, dang, like whew.
Yes. Yeah. And most likely, and sometimes you might not get like the intellectual wisdom of kind of knowing what it is, but it's happening in the unseen or in the internal shift within your body. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Can you tell how you feel towards like that part of you that was scared of getting in trouble?
Like about me? How do I feel about that part of myself?
Yes.
So the instinct is to logically explain to myself why I'm not going to get in trouble for that. So I think it's to help that little person get out of that and like comfort, I guess. I want to comfort her and save her.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give some wisdom from this. This is beautiful. So, right, the empath wants to rescue. And so makes so much sense that like caring, kind, compassionate you wants to go in and soothe her and say, like, here's all the rational reasons, logical reasons that you're not going to get in trouble.
So helpful in the moment, right? Because I'm totally listening to that part of me in that moment.
Yes, it is so helpful. And that's why it's protective, because it's like you're in the feeling, you're in the thought, I'm going to get in trouble. And what feeling is that? Like getting in trouble brings up fear, but if you were actually in trouble, what feeling would that be?
As a child? Dread and loneliness and feeling like I was just completely like worthless and hated and shouldn't exist.
Right. Dread, loneliness, hated, shouldn't exist, shame, right? So the rescuing is in the soothing and the assuring of you're not going to get in trouble. You didn't do anything wrong, or you haven't talked to him in years. Whatever it is protecting those emotions and the feelings of the dread and I'm worthless, right? Like, again, how valuable. So if we take that in also in an empath and narcissistic relationship or in an anxious and avoidant dynamic, that's usually what the anxious or empathic person does to the avoidant or to the narcissist, right? They like want to go in and soothe and like, I see the beauty in you and you're okay. You did nothing wrong. And the narcissist loves that. The avoidant does not. And so that's kind of the difference. The narcissist is like, worship me and tell me I'm amazing and never leave me feeling shame or guilt. And the avoidant tends to like ruminate in those feelings and doesn't want to be rescued because they don't believe they're worthy of being rescued. So for you, you're playing that out. And this is what we do. We treat ourselves internally, right? And what's like inside projects outside. And so the actual like healing treatment and intervention is to recognize the value of that protective you that wants to soothe and comfort and rescue and really validate and like appreciate her, but ask her to gently like hold back so that right, you're like, oh, that's what's so hard, but that's what keeps the dynamic going, and that's also what keeps it in yourself. So the healing, the evolution, and the growth is you have the capacity and you are safe enough now, and you are honoring the little you that did feel worthy, or unworthy, right? The little you that felt unworthy and dread, there's something wrong with me, and you're seeing her. Because when you rescue her, you're saying, you're not allowed to feel this way. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to cry. I'm going to make you feel better so you don't cry. So you're treating yourself like how you were at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Where instead it's like, cry because it's painful. Even if your ex wasn't actually doing anything to indicate you were wrong, that was still alive, hidden in you, that needs to be seen and actually able to let that emotion out, to cry out the unworthiness, the dread, the inner core negative belief that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so good. Okay. I feel like people are like getting a sense of what you do.
Yes.
Which is, I'm so excited because I know that people are going to be like, this is great.
Awesome.
So, okay.
Awesome.
Spin-off question. Gosh, I swear I'm not trying to make this like a therapize me. No.
No, I think it's so cool. Like, one, I'm like very energized by it because I love it. And I think it's really cool for it to be seen like live and I mean, I know it's recorded when it goes out, but we're doing this live here. This is completely unfiltered. We didn't plan it because then people will get to know what this form of therapy is like. And so much of traditional therapy and years of the system is like fix the emotion and the symptom. Like cope to feel better. And I'm like, no, you're going to come and you work with me. You're going to feel really uncomfortable, but we're going to do it so safely in this sacred, like you said, sacred space where you're going to, I tell people, you're not here to feel better. You're here to become better, a better feeler, better at feeling.
Okay. So I guess kind of a hard hitter here. So you're like, let yourself feel it. Let yourself cry. So I'm putting myself back in that right now.
Okay. Right. If you weren't rescuing you, and you're in that dread and unworthiness, there's something wrong with me.
I'm wondering if crying is in fact what I wanted to do in that moment, because now I'm like, well, that's why it took 3 hours.
Yes.
Was it crying? So there was some pacing, there was some sweating.
Okay.
Which to me is like, okay, this stuff's coming out.
Yes. Right. That's another form, right? As a kid, you noticed you wanted maybe to cry, but older you now has other ways of somatically releasing. And it might be, right? Like I need to pace. Yeah, I need to move.
Then now looking back, I can recognize the part of me that I did not give power to was the part of me, like, you know, the empath narc paradigm that we talk about of like, well, I need to explain myself, obviously. Like I need to prove why I'm not what you're saying I am, which I didn't do. So that's cool.
Yes. Yes. That's a corrective experience. That's how you break patterns.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, crying. I wonder if just tell me what you feel here. But later that evening, I was just like, I'm just going to go get in a hot shower and I'm just going to be in that hot shower until the water runs out. And that's what's going to feel good for me. Now, I didn't do it until that evening, but I'm wondering if like in that moment, if crying wasn't what I felt like I wanted to do or needed to do in that moment, I'm wondering if that would have been just as comforting and I'm present with you.
Yes. Yeah. Immediately I noticed myself wanting to say, like, if that's what you felt drawn to do and you listened to it, especially if you didn't go in and over explain yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's another way of just listening to yourself and your body. Like you needed something somatically, right? And it's like the hot sensation, being with yourself, like the shower, the whole idea is nourishing you.
Like a hug, like what my mom would have done, ideally.
Yeah.
So, you know, just that you're okay. It's okay. I'm here.
You're
oh my
okay.
gosh.
Yes. You're okay. And I see you feeling, right, like the dread maybe, or like some of the unworthiness. And it's okay that you feel that way. Because just because you feel that, they don't define you. Just because you feel or a part of you might believe you're unworthy, that doesn't mean that's true, but you still need to allow the feeling, let the feeling be there to be seen.
This is so good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't even know what time it is. Oh, okay. Well, I need to wrap it up then. Okay. Are there moments for you when you also have something come up and you're like, oh, wow, okay, gosh, this is uncomfortable. Like I'm kind of triggered by this or activated by this. What does that look like for you in the moment as someone who, you know, you do this too? Would you be willing to talk us through briefly just what that might look like in the moment?
Sure. And to clarify, does that come up for me when I'm working with a client, or does that come up for me just in my like regular
just personal life as a person?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, with clients, of course, there could be that moment of like, oh man, whew, I need to take a deep breath because I'm holding a lot of space here.
Yes.
But
yeah. And I say to people that I work with that often as like they're going through their own, like I believe that I attract kind of clients that are for some reason in like similar places within their life as me. And the more like, especially in this past year, I've opened myself up more vulnerably to kind of share a little more personally with my clients because I believe like clinically it is useful for them and helpful for them. And so, for myself, when things come up, which yes, absolutely. So my husband and I, we are in an ethically non-monogamous relationship. Because I so deeply believe in like relational healing. And a part of this has allowed us both to like see and date other people, and myself still recognizing like, oh, okay, I'm still falling into some of these very similar dynamics. And they're like huge opportunities for growth. And so, when I get like triggered, especially when I tend to be more anxious, and I'll still fall into patterns of like chasing or over explaining or rescuing, whether it's myself or another person. And so when I've been working on like catching myself in that and having to like sit with it, I have a lot of ways that I respond to that within myself, whether that's like writing, I write poetry. So like utilizing my creativity, going for walks. But like I notice that a lot of those things are still just band-aids.
yeah.
And so the most powerful thing that I've done is I started talking to myself, recording it, or in a mirror, but I find it better when I record it because then I can go back and kind of watch it. And like I did with you, kind of asking the part of like, this is what I mean relational healing can be with yourself. Because I'm like, well, I don't have somebody ask me these questions. So I'm going to ask myself and I'm going to record like I'm talking to me. And so
you're committed. I just want to say that.
Sorry, what did you say?
You're committed.
I'm committed. Yes, I'm committed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I'll do that, and I'll have like somatic experiences during that time where I'll feel something shift in my body, and I might just start crying, or I might have kind of this epiphany moment where, like with you, where you were able to share, like I started to believe there was something wrong with me or that I was unworthy. Like that's what started coming up for me of like, I feel like once there's a connection, then it ends. Like it doesn't sustain itself. Or like I believe there's love, but it doesn't last. That was a really big one for me of like, yes, I'm lovable, but it goes away. And I'm scared it's going to go away. And so being there like with myself and really feeling that in my stomach. So like my upper stomach is a really like common area for me. And I remember that as a child, I had separation anxiety as a kid. Like I cried every day going to school. I hated sleepaway camp. And that's just a sense of like not having that security in the relationship, that trust that it's going to last. Like even when they're not there, I'm okay. And that connection and that love is still there. And so I can make these connections while it's still been living in my body and having to like be with that feeling of, oh, I believe that the love's not going to last. Well, I need to show myself that I love myself and that love is here. But first I have to feel the discomfort of maybe that grief of an ending. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm so sad for little you, but I'm so happy for bigger you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's like when you're able to have that like compassion without rescuing. So that's what healthy empathy, there's a quote that empathy without boundaries is destruction. And that's a lot of what the empaths go into. The like, there's no boundaries, meaning I'm going to rescue you, right? That's how I keep you, because there can then be, you'll need me to reassure you. And so when we hold the boundaries of I can empathize and care, but I'm not going to rescue you from your feeling. I'm just going to hold the space. And that can be, I do a lot of breathing practices to kind of hold the space, or different yoga poses to hold the space. I also use tapping. So tapping modalities that kind of help you to be with it.
I love that one thing people can take away from this is that we have to have self boundaries of not rescuing ourselves too.
Yes.
That is accountability.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And you still might fall into it. And sometimes you might have to, because it's like, I got to rescue myself because maybe I got to go to work or pick up my kid or, right. Yep. It's like appreciating when it's there. And then if you come back to it, right, that commitment to come back. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that part of your process.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you for asking.
We will wrap it up soon, but I just wanted to see, and you don't have to, but if there's anything about your specific program that you want to share or whatever maybe you're most excited to be working on and offering right now.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that too. So yeah, I have my therapy practice. That's pretty full right now. So there's a wait list for one-on-one clients when it comes to like the yoga-based therapy. But I do have a course in community, which is called Alchemize. It's all about kind of taking your dark and into the light, but integrating it and seeing both of your shadows and your light as valuable and necessary to attend to. So it's an online course. It's completely self-paced and there's tiers to it. So if you just want the recorded videos where I offer a lot of my intuitive videos. So when I talk about recording, I've shared some of them on there so people can see and watch. There's recorded therapeutic yoga, meditations, and then there's the community aspect to it. And so that's really where this relational healing comes in because we're meeting as a group. If you're local to Maryland or Baltimore, you can be there in person, but we also do them online. We meet about once or twice a month. And I usually have a different theme or guide you through different therapeutic practices just to support this kind of somatic therapeutic authentic work. And you can find that on my website, amandabakerwrites.com. It also has my poetry on there.
So Writes, W-R-I-T-E-S.
Yes. Yep.
I love that. Okay. So integrating your shadow and your light and appreciating both parts. Clarifying here. When people hear that, are we meaning that we're taking the shadow parts and just integrating that as like, okay, well, that will always be a part of me. So I'm just going to have these moments where I freak out. And do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah. So sometimes people will view emotions as like their darkness or as their shadow, right? So even your anxiety is taking over your unworthiness. Like they won't even go there like you did. You were like, that little me feels unworthy and I need to rescue her and soothe her and get rid of that right away. So the darkness is having to be with that unworthiness and recognize that you have come to believe that about yourself. Because a lot of times the ego and the narcissist would never admit that they believe they're unworthy or rarely ever admit that they were wrong. And so it's like when you can be there without being defensive or without rescuing, you're taking that kind of shadow and bringing that with the light of like my sense of unworthiness exists in me, but by feeling it, I transmute it. And by transmuting it, it can actually shift and change.
So we're removing the negative connotation that we've placed calling something our shadow. And we're saying, well, actually that's light too, because you're all light. But sure, we'll go there because it's going to get dark.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, I guess we are signing off for this episode then. And then I would love to have you on again one day.
I was going to say, I'm happy to come back. We can do a part 2 and go from there.
Thanks for spending time in the Reclamation Room. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if this supported you, consider sharing it or leaving a review. You're not alone, and your reclamation is sacred.